What is going on, guys? It is Evan from Coaster Revolution. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be showing and sharing with you my resource that I use for tracking my roller coaster credits and ranking all of the roller coasters that I've ridden. So I really love spreadsheets, so I tend to use Google Sheets and Excel a lot. Specifically, I use Google Sheets a lot because it's easier to collaborate with others, it's easier to access on my phone on the go, in my opinion, as opposed to Excel, but I think functionally, Excel works better. Google Sheets is free and available to more people, I think, so we're going to go with Google Sheets for now, for what I'm going to show you today. So the whole idea behind this video is just so that you can use this as a resource if you would like, or to give you ideas on how you can track and keep count of all of the roller coasters you've ridden, and how you can rank them up and whatnot. So just starting off over here on the bottom left, as you can see, there's 3 tabs that I use: the database, the credits, how I keep track of my credits, and my rankings. So this is just the database in which I will research every ride and put in all of this information. So before I visit a park, just one thing I like to do for fun is just research about the roller coasters. You know, what park are they in, obviously what state, who's the manufacturer, you know, what's the material, the ride type, the year that it opened, the height, the drop angle, the length in feet. We've got the duration in time, and a lot of times I'll watch a POV of it and just time it either from the beginning when it starts moving or after the first drop. Depends on how you want to do it. Pacing, speed, and inversions. You know, if you're not from the US and you want to use this, you'll just have to go in here and update these values from English units to the metric system. Then the pacing is just going to be a function of the length divided by the time or the duration of the ride. So then the higher the pacing, it's going to be a much more intense ride theoretically, the higher the pacing is. And then you have inversions, riders per hour, and a lot of these are estimations on like RCDB that I find. RCDB or Coasterpedia are the 2 big resources. I'll put those in the description as well. Riders per hour, the riders per train, the cost to build it. Sometimes this can be a little bit difficult to find, but I've just tried my best and estimate in cases where I can't find that information. And then the year that I wrote it. So essentially what I do with this sheet is, before I go visit a park, before I know I'm going to visit a park, I will research all the coasters and put in all of this information beforehand. And that'll get me really hyped, and it'll really allow me to prioritize or learn about the coasters that are at that park, but also prioritize what I'm going to do and what my plan is, and try to tackle, you know, the lowest capacity coasters first in the morning and or the best ones earlier to make sure you get that credit and whatnot. So this really does help, in my opinion. Next, we're moving over to the credits tab, and this one's a lot more simple. It's just a list of all of the coasters that I've ridden in the park and the year, and then this column here just counts how many credits I've gained each year. As I go, I'm just going to continue to add new rides and the parks and the year down here, and it's going to auto-populate up here, and I can just continue to create new years and have the breakdown of new credits that I gained every year. And finally, let's go over to the coaster ranking sheet, which is going to be this 3rd tab on the bottom left corner. We click there, and then this is my coaster ranking. So this is the cool thing about this sheet. It looks super involved, but essentially this uses the VLOOKUP command, so this will auto-populate everything from the first sheet of the database that I typed all that stuff in. So if I type Steel Vengeance in here, it's going to auto-populate all of those numbers and all of those statistics in to this area, which is really cool. It's not super user-friendly. Like, if you can't really insert a cell here. If you wanted to put something in between like 1 and 2, you would have to really like copy the cells and then, you know, like copy all of these, move them down, and then paste it, and then type in your new one up here in case you wanted to add something new in here. But that's essentially how I keep track of all of my coaster credits. But I think it's really neat and it's really cool to look at because I can filter based on park, because I have all these filters. So we can unselect all or clear all here, and we'll just click on Cedar Point. And so I can filter that out, and I can see all of the coasters where I have them ranked at Cedar Point. And I can add, oh well, let's add Kings Island to this mix too. Let's see where they are at. So we'll add Kings Island to the filter too. Now we can see everything we can see everything from Kings Island and Cedar Point. It's important not to sort, so I would never sort here, because otherwise that'll really mess you up. But only filter. So filter by values, filter by all of these different selections. Then you can also filter by like manufacturer, like, oh, let's see where all of my B&Ms are ranked. Let's look at those. Like, wow, we've got quite a few up here, but then we've got a few that are really bad, like Firebird at Six Flags America and whatnot. A couple other things about VLOOKUP is you have to make sure that it's spelled exactly correctly. So if you have like an extra space in there or something, like if I put Batman the Ride Six Flags St. Louis with a space, it's going to return the NA values because it's not exactly the same thing. So make sure you don't have any extra spaces in there, or make sure that you spelled it right over in the database. That might be why it's not populating as well. I always like to put them in parentheses from which park they were from, for example, like for all the Batman rides and stuff like that. But it really is neat. Like, you can filter out so many different things. Like, you can filter out heights, you can filter out, well, status, whether they're operating or not. Another fun filter, we could filter out by type of coaster. So let's just look at all the Gigas and see how I have those ranked up. I only have ridden 3, but i305 is my favorite, at number 2, and then Millennium Force, and then Orion closely behind it. Let's filter by state too. Let's look at Virginia. We'll click on there, and then we can see all of the roller coasters I have ranked up in Virginia. So King's Dominion has the top 2 spots, but then it doesn't have any other ones until almost all of the Busch Gardens Williamsburg roller coasters. So it's really interesting to see. I really recommend you to try this out. It's pretty fun to just play around with, and in my opinion, like, I love statistics and I love looking at coaster stats and stuff like that. So this is really exciting for me. And then the last thing I want to show you is some really cool other things. I've got my total credits, at least that I've ranked up. I have more credits than that, but again, I don't rank all of the kiddie coasters and stuff that I've ridden. But anyways, I have all of these stats broken out by category. So for example, these are all of the stats of my top 25 broken out. And whatever you fill in from these top 25 is going to populate here automatically based on the material and all of these other things that are drawn from the spreadsheet here that gets it from that database. So that database spreadsheet is where you're entering that data in, and this is grabbing all of it from there essentially. So for example, of my top 25, 19 of them are steel, 4 are wood, and 2 of them are hybrids. You can see then it's broken out by state, it's broken out by park as well. Kings Island and Cedar Point both have 4 and 5. Busch Gardens Williamsburg has got 4 in my top 25. Manufacturer as well, B&M and Intamin both have 6. RMC has 3, but I haven't ridden that many RMCs. We've got it broken out by opening year. We've got different ride types, and this is very much, up for debate. A lot of coasters can fit in with multiple types of roller coasters, but I try to just kind of simplify it down to like the few big ones. And then we've got cost breakdown as well. Most of them are pretty expensive that I like. The drop in feet, how high they are, inversions. So I don't necessarily, the coaster doesn't necessarily have to have inversions for me to think it's a good ride, because 14 of my top 25 don't have any inversions. And then, of course, pacing. Usually, the higher the pacing, the better it's going to be. Most of them with lift hills are going to be somewhere in the 30 to 40 range, and that's still pretty good pacing. But a lot of them, launch coasters especially and stuff, are going to be up here in the 40s and the 50s and have incredible pacing. And there's 6 of them with 60 plus, so I value pacing a lot. And then, so if I scroll down here, I also have the top 50 broken out. So I've got 37 steel, 10 wood, 3 hybrid for my top 50. I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but this all auto-populates, so I don't have to fill anything else out in here. And every time I go to a new park, I just create a new column here, or just copy this down. And instead of Holiday World, I would put, say I went to Hershey Park. So we would put Hershey Park. And then what this cell essentially says is we're counting if that range, C3 to C52, includes, which C3 to C52 is the park, if we go back over here, if the park is equal to Z51. So the park has to be equal to Z51, which is Hershey Park here. So if any of those cells equal Hershey Park, then it's going to count that here in this column. So it's pretty cool, and then it'll update automatically. Same thing if I go to a new state. Same thing if I want to include other manufacturers in here, or eventually when you have different opening years in the 2030s. And same thing if you want to add anything else or any other categories in here. These are all just COUNTIF functions, and they can be updated however you like. And then scrolling down further, I have all of the stats. So this is just all of the coasters that I've ridden on this list. So we've got 69 steel, 20 wood, 7 hybrid. It's just cool to see the breakdown. So I figured it would be worth adding all of the stats in here as well. And then if we scroll further to the right over here, just an extra bonus of some more stats. So this might seem a little overwhelming, but I absolutely love it. So I'm just going to go over it real quick. So I've got each park broken down, and of course it counts the more countif functions that count the total number of coasters I've ridden there, and then it breaks them down in how many of the coasters in that park are in the top 10, the top 25, the top 50 in my list, and then the average rank. It basically, this is a countif functions and an average if function. So it's saying if the average of C3, which is the star of number 1, all the way down to like C500, because, you know, that's more credits than I'll probably ever have. You know, if it equals Kings Island, then it averages that number. So it's pretty neat. And so the average rank of coasters at Kings Island that I've ridden is 44, with a standard deviation of 25. I'll put a definition of what standard deviation is, but it's basically the spread of data, the spread of how much the coasters are spread out among my ranking. So for example, let's look at Busch Gardens Williamsburg down here. The average rank is 25, which is really incredible. That's the highest rank of any other park on this list, because they really don't have a bad coaster there. But the standard deviation is only 10. So that means with such a low number in the standard deviation, that means all of them are kind of clustered together within my rankings. So I've ridden about 100 coasters. So most of them are within that average of 25.8 and then plus or minus 10. So it's pretty interesting to see just kind of the breakdown of all of these coasters and at their specific parks. Cedar Point has some really great coasters, but they also have some pretty bad ones too, and some very meh, older ones that are getting out of date. So the standard deviation is pretty high. So there, you know, some that are in my top 10, 3 of them specifically, which is great. They have a lot that are down somewhere in the 70s and 80s too. And again, if you wanted to add new parks as you go to them, you can just add the name and then just copy all of these cells down here. And eventually, once you put that information into the list, then it's all going to populate. It's all going to be there. And then over here to the right, I have it broken down by material. So we have the average rank of the steel and the wooden coasters that I've ridden, and the hybrid. So we have the number, the percentage of my top 25, and then my top 50. I've ridden 69 steel wooden coasters, which is 71.9% of my credits. And then 76% are in my top 25, so just a little bit more than average of what I would expect to be in my top 25. And then I also have the average rank. This is the average rank of all of the coasters based on manufacturer. So I have manufacturers broken down too. I mean, I've ridden from each one, the average rank. So RMC has 6.5 average rank, which is incredible. I've only ridden 3 of them though, and they've all been great. So those are 3 in my top 25 and in my top 50 as well. So you can just see the percentages of each one, the average rank. You can see which manufacturers really make a big splash. I've, you know, Intamin and B&M averaging about 30. That's pretty darn good. Same with GCI. You know, Morgan, I've only ridden 2 of them, but I've really enjoyed the 2 that I've been on. And then you can see down here, Din has got like 60, which is not great. As you ride more and more coasters, this average rank is going to go up, obviously. So Arrow in Vekoma struggling down here at 68, 67. Because I haven't been on a lot of the best Arrows and the newer age Vekomas. So this can look a little bit skewed. And a lot of the PTCs are really old. So, and then mock rides, I've been on 3 of them, but they're all like the Wild Mice coasters. So take that with a grain of salt too. But I just thought that was pretty cool. And you can add more manufacturers if you so wish there as well. And then I have it broken down by state too. Maybe you're as crazy as I am about this and you really want to dive straight in and do something like this or create your own spreadsheet of something like this. Maybe you just want to use this as a resource. Maybe you record your coasters and track them some completely different way. I'm not saying you have to do this or do rank things so elaborately like I do and look at all the stats and everything, because it does take a lot of time. But really, just do what's best for you. Do what you enjoy the most. Everybody's different. I really like stats and I love spreadsheets, but some people probably are really overwhelmed by something like this. So just do what you enjoy the best, even if you're just recording them on a pen and paper. Just have fun with it, guys. Again, check the description for all of the resources. I'm going to give you a link to this spreadsheet specifically. You can save off a copy of your own. And use it if you'd like. Do whatever you want with it. You can check out the formulas and whatnot and all of the tabs just to get an idea of how to use this stuff and maybe how to use these formulas if you want to create your own. And then I just get a lot of this information off like RCDB and Coasterpedia. Links of those will also be in the description. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, ring the bell, all of that fun stuff. And have a wonderful day. Enjoy the ride, guys.